he's asking a bunch of questions and like she is like very much receiving it. Because like I feel like sometimes that can get awkward when you're writing it, but like somehow Sally Rooney made it be like, this is the hottest thing ever.
Yeah.
That he's
No,
asking
exactly.
all these questions.
Consent is sexy.
Welcome to Red Wine Reads, a community of book lovers talking about our favorite and not so favorite books while pouring a glass or two of wine. I'm your host, Jenna Weston, and with me today is Ella Kopakin. Now, before we start, I should warn you that we do spoil the endings of the books we review, so if you don't like that, then please go finish the book and come right back to this episode, or find an episode where you have read the book and you don't mind spoilers, or if you really just don't mind spoilers at all, please continue to listen. Here's what you can expect from every episode. We start with a super short 60-second summary and some quick facts to get you oriented. Then we answer the question, would you recommend this book? And we answer with a simple yes or no. Then we will spend the majority of the episode arguing why or why not we would recommend this book. And finally, we will end the show with final ratings out of 5 and pairings, where we pick drinks, TV shows, movies, and other books that might pair well with today's read. Each episode also hosts its own drinking game, so whatever your drink of choice, wine, cocktails, mocktails, coffee, water, we hope that you'll sip along with us. Today we are reviewing Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Now, I am super excited about this episode because I am a huge Sally Rooney fan. I first fell in love with Sally Rooney through the TV show Normal People that starred the beautiful Paul Mescal and the beautiful Daisy Edgar Jones. And once I heard that she was coming out with a new novel, I knew I had to get it immediately. When Ella had mentioned that she also wanted to read Sally Rooney, I suggested that we read her new book. Little did I know that she would actually agree with me on my opinion of this book, which is wild because I genuinely thought we would end up on separate sides of this argument, but very pleasantly surprised that we did not. So without further ado, let's pull some corks and get reading. Again, this week we read Intermezzo by Sally Rooney.
Yes. Sally Rooney in the house.
Hello, welcome to a very special episode of Red Wine Reads.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
I am drinking a family business company beer, the Cosmic Cowboy. Actually very apt because my favorite singer of all time, Graham Parsons, was called the Cosmic Cowboy.
Yep, I am drinking just straight up whiskey on the rocks.
Yeah, Jenna's double fisting. She's drinking whiskey and a beer.
And a Blue Moon. I finished the Blue Moon. We were watching a little bit of the West Wing. So.
Oh, an actually good president.
Yeah.
Funny.
So funny.
I was my political show of choice is Veep, and I follow
Veep.
I love Veep so much, and I follow the like Veep quotes no context Instagram, and they were just popping off today.
I'm sure. Oh my god. Just the scene of them calling Jonah all the nicknames in the courtroom.
Incredible.
My brother and I send that to each other probably once a quarter.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. What a day today. Because I have a chance to talk about Sally Rooney, who I adore.
I know. So we're going to end the day on a good note.
Marxist queen, Sally Rooney, actually.
Marxist queen. I'm so excited. So yes, we are talking about Sally Rooney's newest novel, Intermezzo. Before we get into it, here is the drinking game if you want to sip along with us.
Can I ask a question really quickly? Is Intermezzo a chess thing? I didn't get why that book was called that. Why was that book called that?
I'm just going to say Intermezzo wide title.
Intermezzo wide title.
The word intermezzo means an interlude in a drama, opera, or musical work, and can also refer to a light palate cleanser between a rich meal.
Right. So nothing to do with chess.
It's also the brand of a form of insomnia medication.
Okay. I'm sure it's like something really intelligent and sexy and like something very Sally Rooney-y that I just like can't get into currently.
Yeah, an intermezzo in chess is an in-between move which forces its players to respond.
Oh, okay. That makes so much sense. Okay, so it definitely is a chess thing, A. B, it's definitely about the characters in the book. So... Whew, I'm relieved. I don't know about the audience, but I'm personally relieved. Couldn't continue without that. Okay, Drinking game rules.
Okay, we have 4 rules. First rule, drink anytime Jenna says something along the lines of "I fuck with Sally Rooney."
Yup.
I'm sure it'll come up. It already came up, so
Yeah, there you go.
yes. Take a sip anytime Peter is sad, which is a lot.
Literally all the time.
And drink whenever Margaret mentions Ivan's age,
which is a lot.
which is a lot. And drink whenever Naomi is being apathetic,
which is a lot.
Wow. So the point is to get drunk tonight.
Yeah, no, we're getting, and by the way, we've never drank more than we're going to drink on this show tonight.
I was honestly genuinely very surprised when I was looking through this document and I saw your notes on this book.
Really?
For some reason, I was like, it's going to be another battle. It's going to be
really.
battle. And then I was like, pleasant.
No, me and Sally Rooney, we get along very famously. I love her. Okay. I haven't read Beautiful World, Where Are You? Which I know was very controversial. Like, a lot of people did not like that, but this seems to be her comeback. Yeah. Although I am so done. Sorry, and then I will let you speak. But I just am so done with books only coming out in hardback and then it taking a year for them to come out in paperback, because it's like literally hardback books are now $35, and I'm so done having to spend that much money. And yeah, I know what you're going to say. Oh, go to the library, Ella, or, just like figure it out at a used bookstore, okay? Nobody's giving it out at used bookstores yet because nobody's getting rid of their copies. And the library has an insanely long wait because everybody wants to read this friggin' book. So I had to buy it, okay?
Yep, that is fair. Let's dive into the summary, 60-second summary of Intermezzo.
I'm ready.
Tough. It's a long book, so are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
And go. Okay, so Peter and Ivan, their dad just died. They are Irish. Peter is in his early 30s. Ivan is 23. Ivan is a chess master. Peter has 2 complicated relationships, one with 23-year-old Naomi, the other with Sylvia, who is closer to his age. Sylvia is his ex, who was in a terrible accident. He did not want to break up with her, but because of the accident, somehow, like, she's affected, can't have sex, all this stuff. And, like, they had to break up. And now he's dating Naomi. And Naomi's really, like, complicated. And she's cute. And then Ivan is a chess master, like I said. He meets Margaret at one of his competitions. Margaret is 36 years old. And they, like, have this very sudden hot and heavy thing and start to date. And it gets, like, really complicated because Margaret doesn't like his age. Anyway, in the end, Peter kind of loses his mind after Sylvia refuses to be with him, and he and Naomi and Sylvia end up in this like throuple weirdness where it's like, no, we all love each other, and like Sylvia and Naomi get along, but like Peter kind of ends up with Naomi, and then Ivan and Margaret kind of just end up vibing. Like they end up like with each other after some complicated things where Margaret's like, everybody in my town's gonna judge me. And then Peter and Ivan have this like huge falling out because Peter's like, why would Ivan date a 36-year-old? That's so weird. But then he meets Margaret and he's like, oh, she's fire. Like, of course he would. And so then Peter and Ivan are okay after they have this like big physical fight. And yeah, I mean, it's actually not that complicated. It's kind of, that's all that happens. Do I have more time?
No, you got it. You did it. Yeah, honestly, I feel like that's just like Sally Rooney's MO. It's like nothing really happens, but
so much happens.
So much happens. Yes. Well, let's get into some quick facts. So, Intermezzo was published in 2024, so very recent. And it has a 4.2 out of 5 on Goodreads and a 4.3 out of 5 on the Storygraph. So
that's what we like to see.
It is the 4th and newest book by Sally Rooney. First book being Conversation with Friends, that was published in 2017. That turned into a Hulu miniseries. Normal People, which was another Hulu TV series. That one came out first before Conversation with Friends. In terms,
it gave the world Paul Mescal and his butt.
Yes. That's how I got introduced to Sally Rooney, actually, is through the TV show.
Same.
Love it. And then Beautiful World, Where Are You? And then Intermezzo. Sally Rooney is an Irish author. She describes herself as a feminist and a Marxist. She was raised by 2 socialist parents. So definitely a very eclectic woman herself. 33 years old, and she really keeps to herself. Like her I even slowed down for it.
Take three.
Her
Jenna's
for a job. I'm drunk already. With one sip. but she really just keeps to herself. She does not promote any of her books. To
Jenna
like
was trying to say publicity.
publicity. Thank you. I don't know why I kept trying to add another L in there. Yeah, so it's kind of funny how like she's taken off in such a grand way because she literally doesn't really do a book.
I will say there's a really interesting New York Magazine article that
Yeah.
maybe we can link in the show notes that's about like her writing romance but also being a Marxist and how those things rub up against each other. That just came out a couple of months ago after Intermezzo came out. And it's really worth a read because it is just fascinating that this person who kind of uses her characters to profess her very Marxist and equal ideas and concepts of society is writing this very commercial genre and succeeding at it so much.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I personally don't have a problem with it. I'm not a Marxist, so I don't think that one has to practice what they preach necessarily, but it is just a really, really fascinating article and an interesting idea of like how to approach her work because I think that you hear that she's a Marxist and so you assume that that's like how she's looking at the world, but she's actually kind of writing in a different way. So
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
you go.
And for those who don't know what a Marxist is, do you want to give a little history corner for a hot second?
Oh my god, Marxist communism is just not totally for me, but it might be for somebody else. Anyway, Marxism is basically Karl Marx, who was a communist in the 1800s, I believe, wrote something called the Communist Manifesto, where he really went off for 100 pages about how he viewed communism. And then everybody really took it to heart, or not everybody, but a lot of people really took it to heart, namely the leaders of Russia, the then USSR. And so post Marx, you get things like Lenin and Stalin. And then in China, you get Mao. And, it caused a lot of interesting things to happen because when you sort of say that, everybody should be equal and, the government is in charge of everybody's jobs, not always good things happen, but not always bad things happen. We live in a capitalist society. I don't love that either. So I'm not saying one is better than the other, but it is tough to sort of look at how people took Marxism and ran with it and not go, "Hmm, maybe we ought to cool it on the starving people aspect of it," you know?
Yeah, you would think.
Anyway, I'm sure Sally
Love it.
Rooney's appalled at my explanation, but there you go.
Ah, there you go. Um, uh, well, so let's get into it. The Marxist romance of it all. So, would you recommend this book, Ella? Yes or no?
I mean, we both said the same thing.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Ella loves a nonlinear plot. Ella loves a complex character. Ella loves good sex scenes. Hello, Outlander callback. And I also like do love the trope of when characters who you don't think are going to interact end up interacting. So like i.e. Sylvia and Naomi, or like Naomi and Ivan, or Peter and Margaret, how like everybody ends up meeting and kind of it all becomes one cycle.
Mhm.
Um yeah, I mean, I think she just has this real knack for, it's funny because I'm sure there's plenty of people who are like, ugh, she writes in such this kind of like intellectual elitist manner. But to me, I think that she makes these people who could very easily be unlikable, very likable. She
Mhm.
writes these characters who maybe on the surface present as cold and sort of like intelligent and hiding behind those things, but um I think she gives real life to her characters and I think that's why people are so attracted to them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where do you stand?
I mean, very similar things, but yes, I love Sally Rooney. I love how she writes. I love the big blocks of just following somebody's thought line.
Mm,
And like just being able to kind of it's how I think, and so being able to kind of
totally.
like read it and see it on a page makes it very nice. Like, I know like one of Sally Rooney's big critiques is the no quotation marks, but personally, I don't mind it. I read it how it's written, and so like I don't know. I don't find it like super hard to keep up with. And it honestly makes it even more like interesting because there are some things that like you think that they're saying out loud and then they're like, oh, which is what I would have said, but I said this instead, which is kind of fun. And I couldn't put it down. I will say like we'll get into it. It did drag slightly in a few parts, but if you like the, you know, like we were saying with the plot, not a lot happens, but a lot happens. So like if you kind of like that day in the life, a little bit more just like contemporary drama without it being like super dramatic, then you would love this. And if you're just a sucker for good writing, Sally Rooney's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so true. Like, I think if you're classically an overthinker and an overanalyzer, you just inherently are somebody who's going to relate to her work because she's just really good at writing internal monologues. And yeah, I mean, the no quotation marks thing, we can get into it. I think for me, like I was reading this book when I was being prescribed oral steroids, and I like sat down to read this book for the day that I got it, and I was in a public place and I could not follow it. Like I was 12 pages in and I was like, I don't know what is happening. So you do really have to focus.
I will say though, I think that's honestly partly to do with the first chapter because I struggled through that first chapter. And people that I've like who have also read this book face the same issue.
Okay.
So
I
like,
feel
I think
good about that.
Part of it's that. But yes, it's partly you kind of have to like get into the rhythm of it and then
That's what I was going to say. I think that she is a really good writer, but I think that, you know, and this is with any really good writer, she has such a distinct voice and a distinct cadence. And so it's one of those things that you kind of have to get practiced in again, where you're like, oh, right, this is what we're doing. And then as soon as you're into it, you're really into it. But it definitely does take getting used to because she doesn't write like everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, I agree. I think like where I guess we're bleeding into like what sparkled, but I think really what stands out, and you've said it as well, is just like the character development and how she writes is how you get that character development. Because yes, you do get like the dialogue of them like interacting with each other and like, you know, learning about them that way, but that like inner dialogue is fascinating. And like kind of gives a key into like their mannerisms and like their like what is going on just like cycling through their heads.
Yeah.
And also you get that like I think like you learn a lot about the people doing that, but I think you learn even more about them like when they're actually like you said, interacting with each other. Because like Ivan as a character is super interesting to me, just with like he doesn't project a lot out. It's all inside. But then you get him interacting with Margaret, and then you're seeing all these like things coming up and bubbling to the surface, and even with him and Peter. And so like, I don't know, I just think she does such a freaking good job at like developing these characters and kind of taking these characters from like the middle, dropping yourself into the middle of their messy drama. And being like, all right, let's see what happens.
No, totally. Totally. Yeah, I mean, do you want to get into what sparkled?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that, I mean, my two favorite plot lines were Ivan and Margaret and Sylvia and Peter. And I think that that's because she just was able to capture such intimacy in these people. And I will say, like, I made a joke about it earlier, the sex scenes, but it's true. Like, Sally Rooney writes these sex scenes, like, no sex scene for Sally Rooney is exploitative or there for the purpose of sex. Like, it's always to learn about character development. And I think that what I found so interesting about the Ivan and Margaret dynamic is like these are two characters who are frequently like the awkward young guy and the like older woman are frequently written very two-dimensionally and very, I don't know, just like boring. You know, usually if you're getting either of these types of characters, you're getting like oh, she's, on the prowl or like cougar-esque, and he's, kind of just like a dunce, or, like
Yeah.
it's rarely are you getting complexity in a older woman, younger man dynamic like that. And so I think to have these two people be so cerebral and also meeting each other in this very physical way was just like a really just cool way to portray them, because you're getting all their internal thoughts and then seeing how they interact sexually, and it's like you're seeing two such different sides of those characters, and you're getting such a full picture from that.
And you're also getting like, I like with the like older woman, younger man dynamic, I think like a lot of the times it's the younger man that's like, just hungry and like, let's just do it, like almost animalistic. And then you have like Ivan being this, almost like making it very sexy to be like, is this okay? What do you like? Can I help? Like, is this fine here? Like, can I kiss you? Does this, it's just like he's asking a bunch of questions, and like she is like very much receiving it, because like I feel like sometimes that can get awkward when you're writing it, but like somehow Sally Rooney made it be like, this is the hottest thing ever.
Yeah.
That he's
No,
asking
exactly.
all these questions.
Consent is sexy.
Yes.
But also, like with Peter and Sylvia, you have the opposite, which is like so much suppressed or not suppressed, but prevented sexuality, because she can't engage in that. And so then with them, you're getting the opposite. It's like, instead of having everything said physically, you're having everything said literally. And what happens when like you have total honesty with somebody, to the point where you're even talking about your other partner with them. And that is equally like so sexy and so fervent and intense. And so I just really loved that, because I mean, I say it, or I was saying it like in my notes for this, but just Sylvia as a character, like rarely are you reading about dynamics like that, and particularly like romantic dynamics where somebody cannot engage sexually and having it be as hot as the sex scenes. And like, yes, they do end up having kind of this weird blowjob scene where she like gives him a blowjob and he's like, "Thank you so much. That really meant a lot. That really came from the heart."
Oh God, I know. I'm gonna break up with my girlfriend for that.
But it was just really cool to read about, because romantic relationships look like a lot of different things. And I think that romance novels fall into very similar tropes frequently. And so reading about a dynamic that has very little to do with sex and everything to do with connection in other ways was really cool.
Like you said, it's like, it's not even just the sex, it's like the intimacy of every moment that you
Totally.
just get, like, is so special, I guess. And I think like part of what I loved with Peter's storyline especially is like how messy it is. Like he has these incredibly strong feelings for Sylvia. And like it's kind of like the one that got away. Like I'm not, like but in a sense, like he cannot have the relationship he needs with her, just purely like they cannot have that physical connection that like Sylvia's like, you need this.
Yeah.
Like because like you're having troubles. And like it's coming out in some weird ways.
Yeah.
And then but like Naomi is also providing that like youth, that idea that like your life isn't over yet. And also being like very nonchalant in the sense of like, I don't need you to be like my savior, my God, like in a way, but also being like, I do need money from you, and I also would love a place to stay, and like and like
Yeah.
he wants to like protect her, and he
And
wants to be
provide.
that safe haven for her. And so like I think because he wasn't able to provide that for Sylvia, and so like that is kind of seeping into this relationship. But I don't think you get a lot of stories like this where it's a three-way relationship, yet it's like chill.
Yeah,
And
or it's again like there's it's a three-way relationship dynamic, and yet two of the people are not having sex. And a lot of it doesn't even boil down to the sexual element, despite it being such an intimate and sexual book.
Yeah. We don't need to have a threesome like we did in Atlas 6.
Yeah, exactly. You don't always need to have a threesome. But I mean, and it's not like, it's not that it's never been done before, but having the comparison side by side of older man, younger man, older woman dynamic
Mm-hmm.
in a book is a really cool thing to play with because you get to see how power dynamics are shifted within that. And it's like you get to see on Naomi's side, sort of the sexual power that she holds over Peter and the power of youth and the power of kind of demand and
Mm-hmm.
being in that role. And then you get to see in Peter this like need to provide, need to be a savior, kind of lording over the fact that he is older and therefore has more resources and more funds. And then with Ivan and Margaret, you kind of, I guess it's interesting to me because sort of what it revealed to me in a way that I hadn't thought of before is that older man, younger woman dynamics are sort of very much rooted in, I think, like strength
Mm-hmm.
and how one can kind of peacock, as a younger woman and older man. But with the older woman, younger man dynamic, I think it's much more based in vulnerability, and it's like the classic mommy issue thing. But like going beyond that, it's also there's more of a need and there's more access to emotion. And I that was something that I kind of had never thought of before in the difference of what those two dynamics look like, but having them side by side in the book, I was like, "Oh, okay, this makes a lot of sense."
Yeah. And having Margaret's almost like insecurity lie in the fact that she's like, I'm gonna break your heart. Like this isn't gonna
Yeah.
like work. Like you're not like I don't want to take this away from you, and almost being like self-conscious of the fact that like I have lived a full life before meeting you.
Yeah.
And him being like, but I want you to be my life. And like, yeah,
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, and it's just it's an awareness, right? Because I think that it's very easy for if you're an older man in a dynamic to just kind of be like, well, this person serves this purpose for me. But I think if you're an older woman, you're kind of like, no, this person deserves to have a life and deserves to see more of the world. And I just
Yeah.
do think inherently that's kind of what happens, you know? That is a big difference. So,
It is messy, but like all of Sally's books are like very messy, but in the best of ways of like these characters. I think that's what appeals to me so much about her books is like everything is so real, and the way like the sex scenes are like very real in how they would happen. And like the way that these characters talk to each other, like you have the brothers that get into like a full-fledged fight over like in a lunch scene, and you have like them going to their mom and having this very complicated relationship with their mom, but then also them like confronting each other about their father. And so like and then you have love stories that don't quite work out the way that you think they're going to work out, like in normal people, like the relationship like doesn't, spoiler alert, pause, it doesn't work out in the end. So like you have a very like realistic view of love and like relationships, while still incorporating this like almost literary dramatic messiness to it,
mhm.
but it feels so raw and real that you're like, I just can't get enough of it, because it's not like Real Housewives kind of drama, but you're still getting that like, I don't know, each character is just being like so vulnerable, laid out, like everything is out there, all their dirty laundry. And I just think it's like so good. I love it.
Oh, yeah. No, and I mean, it causes you to reexamine things in your own life, She writes
Mm-hmm.
people who are our age, and she writes people who are experiencing love and loss and grief and all of the things that we all go through, so it's hard to not relate. Yeah, I just think she's really good at what she does, man.
She's just really good at what she does. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what fell flat with this book?
What fell flat? I mean, not a lot,
Yeah.
but I will say, I think you alluded to it earlier. Peter as a character can be a little much. I think, and that I do think that is purposeful, but he's such a focal point of the book. And I think that Ivan to me was more interesting of the two brothers because he had more access to his emotions, and I don't know. I think it was just that Peter, maybe as an older man with kind of these sexual needs and a lot of insecurity, was maybe not the most relatable to me or sympathetic to me. And so because of that, I think that I had less kind of bandwidth for him in his internal monologue. But I mean, it's not to say that he wasn't equally well written, because I do think he was. I will say the one character who I had a problem with how she was written was Naomi, because I feel like it got so male gazy at a certain point. Like, obviously Sally Rooney's not a man, but I think how she was writing Naomi was so like fantasy kind of at times for an older guy that I don't feel like I learned as much about her as I did the other characters, and I felt like there was a lot of time sort of devoted to, like, her neediness or what she wore or, her sex scenes that I just kind of was like, I feel like this character deserves a little bit more compared to the rest of the people in this book.
Mhm.
And then the last two things I'll say is there was this, like, whole plot line about Peter and Ivan's mom and, like, her taking care of Ivan's dog, and I just, like, didn't care about any of it. I don't
Yeah.
care about the dog, I don't care about the mom. It was so irrelevant in the grand scheme of things that I was like, why am I learning about this dog as much as I am? Like, we get it. Ivan likes the dog, that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yep. I think, I don't know, like part of it was giving me like Sister of the Traveling Pants Carmen vibes. But like it provides that sense of Ivan feeling as though he was replaced by this family that his mom had created, and then and also like the mistreatment of the dog is also reflective of kind of like his own problems that he has with this family.
Right.
Which I think you can get across with a little bit with just maybe like one or two flashback kind of vibe.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing, is just like this metaphor is lingering. It was lingering, and then he like takes care of the dog, and then it just was like, okay.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it was like super strong. I do think the mom is an interesting character because like I've had friends with mothers that try to meddle in the way that she meddles, almost like pitting the siblings against each other, and trying to get the inside scoop from all the siblings to like use. And so like I've met this character before, and so to me like she was really interesting because of that. And I think having Peter go through the crisis where he had literally nobody else to turn to but his mother, who's kind of the worst, is like an interesting story as well. So like I didn't mind her as much. I do agree the dog was kind of like, what are we doing here? But I do think I agree with Peter where I think like toward the end, I think it's like, oh, I think it might even be the last chapter, the second to last chapter, but he has an inner monologue that gets very long.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, we get it. You're having this come to Jesus moment, and it's like very therapeutic for you or whatever. But like, we don't need to spend,
Come on, buddy.
8 pages on one thought, kind of. And again, I think that was also kind of what was happening in that first chapter, which made it really hard to get into.
Yeah. Peter is sort of That's the thing is Peter is in many ways the kind of lead character, and I don't think he's as interesting as the other characters, so that's always hard when the least interesting person is kind of focusing the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only times that he was interesting was when he was either interacting with Sylvia, Naomi, or Ivan. And
Right.
then, like, when it's by himself, you're kind of like,
Who cares?
yeah, dude, I'm sorry, but like, jeez.
Who
But
cares?
yeah, but then I was like, but I don't know, is she trying to do that on purpose? Like, is Peter just this, like, kind of over analytical, like, almost like a little bit egotistical, where he's like, everybody wants to hear what I have to say?
I think she is doing it on purpose. I do think
Yeah,
that's his personality. It's just who wants to hang out with somebody like that?
I don't.
Not me.
hmm But yes, very small marks that don't take up a whole lot of space in the book. So, yeah, and I will say it's a long book,
It's long.
but I never felt like, I guess I never felt like it was like, oh my god,
Considering we just read Dracula, this felt like a
like a
walk in the
breeze.
park. This felt like an absolute walk in the park.
Uh-huh.
If the last one was a slog through quicksand, this one was an easy breezy hike. Okay?
Easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, is there anything else you would add before we get into final ratings?
I think I really like now having read Conversations with Friends and Normal People and this. People love Normal People, the book, and I totally get that. I am more partial to Conversations with Friends and this book, and I think it's because she is really good at writing unconventional romantic dynamics. And because of that, I feel less interested in her take on like a conventional two-person relationship and more interested in her take on relationships like this, where there are multiple people involved and different ages and different experiences and putting that all into one. I mean, I'm sure the biggest complaint with Sally Rooney is, she is like this white Irish lady writing about white Irish people, and like
Yeah.
that is totally valid. She writes what she knows. But it's a really, I don't know, I think I walk away from her books having a more complex understanding of romance, which
Yeah.
what more could you ask for? I think that that's my biggest complaint normally with the romance genre is it's just too typical and it just falls into the same stereotypes and feels very like straight and just not that interesting. And I think that she provides a window into this kind of like hetero romantic novel that it provides complexity, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I agree. When I was reading about her and researching her, like the biggest complaint is she doesn't have a lot of diversity in her books. But I do think she has a lot of diversity in the romance aspects of her books, where there are a lot of different things going on. And I think the way that she writes it with kind of without judgment and without like falling into a lot of the stereotypes, falling into it just enough that you like connect with it, but being able to write about it in like a very gentle and very like real way is something super special that I love about Sally. And also, I actually haven't read Conversation with Friends, but I have heard that that's like a favorite among people.
I will talk about it later. I love it.
Yes. But I watched the show Normal People and fell in love with it, and then I read the book and fell in love with it because I think for me it's taking that typical romance and flipping it on its head in the sense of like you do have, boy meets girl, they have a relationship, they break up, they find each other, they come back to each other, but like at the end of the day they don't end up together. And that's just the way it is. And like that is real life. Like sometimes you just don't end up together, and that is just what it is. And like sometimes you have like with her male characters, like they're just so complex and a lot more like depth to them. Like you in Normal People, you have him like fighting depression and going through these depressive episodes and trying to figure that out and trying to figure out living alone. With Ivan, you have him trying to figure out his own feelings and like how to express it to people when he has been bottling it up his entire life. And then you have Peter, who's kind of the complete opposite, who literally is just like pouring out his feelings all the time. And people are like, dude, get it together.
Relax.
And
Relax.
so, I don't know. I just love her. I think she does. I love character development when it's done well, and she does it really freaking well.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Well, final ratings. This is no surprise.
I know.
I did give it a 4 out of 5. I mean, you should be drinking this entire episode, but damn, I love me some Sally Rooney.
Whoop, cheers.
Mm-hmm. I think I like Normal People slightly more than this one because it is slightly shorter, and also I just like personally connected with the story a little bit more. But this one is so good. Like, I flew through it. I think it touches on such like an intense like grief and family and like that innate loneliness, and how to kind of like find your way out of that loneliness through a relationship with somebody like super special, but also trying to figure out what you want in the same time. And yeah, I ate this shit up. I really did.
I mean, yeah, I feel the exact same way. I also give it a 4 out of 5. I think I may even give it a 4.5 out of 5. I really, really enjoyed this book. I think that there is an access to humanity that she has that is unlike anything else. And she's kind of the one fad in modern literature that I can get behind. I think that it's all justified. I think that she's just innately very attuned to human emotion and intimacy, and especially in this kind of like postmodern technology bizarre world that we live in, she is really a keen voice in that space. And I mean, yeah, for all the reasons that I've been saying, she's immaculate at writing human connection. She's perfect at writing sex scenes. She's just like, she to me is the top tier of romance, and I want her to keep doing what she's doing.
Yes, simple as that.
There you go.
All right, well, let's get into pairings. So we like to end the show with pairings. We'll pick a drink, a TV show, other book, and movie that might pair well with today's book. So we'll start off with
drinks. I said a Shandy because it's half beer, half lemonade. So you have the juvenile and the adult, which I thought was very apt. Plus, beer's a big thing in Ireland. So all of those things are true. Also, if you, excuse me, if you order a Shandy in the UK or in Ireland, they will look at you funny. They will be like, you're weak. So I think that that's apt for Peter's vibe. So there's a lot that I think could apply to a Shandy here.
I love it. They kept saying lemonade, and I was like, they keep ordering a lemonade at a bar.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell what that was. I was maybe going to ask you, but I did find a recipe for something called an Irish lemonade, which is pretty much lemonade with some whiskey in it. But I didn't know if like that is like a thing over there.
That wasn't a thing to me. Maybe it is in Ireland. The only thing I can think of is like, I feel like what we call lemonade is not what is called lemonade in the UK. Like lemonade in the UK is like Sprite. Like it's like lemon lime soda. And so it's not really like American lemonade at all. So I wonder if they were ordering effectively Sprite and just calling it lemonade. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I tried. I really did. But yeah, so I found an Irish lemonade, which is just
there you go.
Lemonade with whiskey in it. So yeah, there you go.
There you go.
All right, TV show. Okay, the great television show Catastrophe, starring Sharon Horgan and Rob Delaney. They both created the show and wrote the show and also starred in the show. And it, I think, is 4 seasons. Let me check really quickly. Catastrophe TV show. Yes, 4 seasons.
4 seasons. Basically, I think I may have recommended this once, but I don't remember. Anyway, Sharon Horgan's one of my favorite products of Ireland, period. She recently created the show Bad Sisters, which you may know, but she's been around for a long time. The show is about her and Rob Delaney. They're both adults in their 30s, and Rob Delaney comes to the UK. They're in London, and they have a one-night stand, and then she gets pregnant, and instead of doing something about that, he decides to move to the UK and raise the baby with her, and they decide that they're going to be a couple, and it's all the complications that come with that, and it's just a really crazy show and a really wonderful show and very true to life. And there are just some brutally honest moments of intimacy, you know, like looking at pimples on each other's butts and like having gross sex and like, you know, cleaning up baby poop. And it just gets very, very real very fast. So I love that show. And yeah.
That's a good one. Mine, I did 2. So I did, going off the chess theme, Queen's Gambit.
A show I did not like. Ella did not like that
it.
show.
Wow, I loved it. I thought it was so good. If you're looking for if this just didn't quite itch that chess fix, Queen's
there is
Gambit
something else for you.
It's a good one. Also just like the social awkwardness, but trying to kind of navigate also being like your own person at a young age as well. You get those themes. And then my other one is One Day. Definitely gives me more like normal people vibes, but the newest TV show, so not the movie.
Not the movie. Do not watch that movie. Do not watch that movie. Do not watch Anne Hathaway trying to do an English accent for 2 hours. It'll make you really sad.
It's brutal. It's really brutal. So just go watch the show on Netflix and cry your eyes out like I did.
Also, they meet at the University of Edinburgh. That's where I went to college, and there are a lot of scenes in Edinburgh, and that show really makes me happy that we're getting some attention.
There you go. Yes. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, and honestly, it's just a good love story, but also like tragic.
It's cute. I love it.
So cute.
It's sweet.
Yeah. If you want to like keep it sweet, just end after episode 10.
Yeah. Keep it sweet.
Keep it sweet. All right, book.
We both went with Sally Rooney.
We did.
I recommend. Okay, so here's my famous take, which I think a lot of people do agree with, but Conversations with Friends is a better book, and Normal People is a better TV show. Conversations with Friends TV show, not good. Can't wait to see what happens with Intermezzo. Would love for it to get made into something. But Conversations with Friends is effectively about this young girl who meets an older couple and her also young best friend. This girl ends up hooking up with the husband in this relationship, and the wife finds out, and it gets messy. But it's a really, really well written book. And if you are not poly, you know, you can find out more about polyamory in this book. I feel like I found out a lot reading this book when I did. But I don't know. I just, for some reason, Normal People, to me, I loved the TV show so much. But when I read the book, I was kind of just like, meh. It didn't do a lot for me as much as it did for other people. But Conversations with Friends, I think, was so... To have 4 distinct narrators, or not narrators, but 4 distinct main characters, and being able to understand each of their perspectives is so hard to do. And I think she does that really effectively, and this, similar to how she does it here. And I just, like I said earlier, I just prefer it when she's writing about multiple people involved in kind of a messy situation as opposed to one main couple. So, yeah.
I love it. Yeah, mine's Normal People. I talked about it enough on this episode, I feel like. But
it is classic.
It's just so good. And yeah, just any Sally Rooney. Actually, we can speak to Beautiful World, Where Are You? So hold on to that thought.
Yeah. Hold on to that one.
Alrighty. Movie.
Well, we both went with age gap movies. You took a more recent one. I was like, you know what? Perfect opportunity to talk about Harold and Maude. I feel like I may have talked about it on this show before, but I'll just do it again. 70s movie starring Ruth Gordon and Bud Cort. Ruth Gordon, you may know as the old woman in Rosemary's Baby. She's a lot less creepy here. She's actually deeply lovable here. Harold is a suicidal, depressed teenage boy who meets Maude, who is a woman in her 70s who absolutely adores life and takes it by the balls. and they fall in love, and it is so amazing. It's one of the best movies of all time. I cannot describe it any more than that. Cat Stevens does the soundtrack, and they just have this really unique connection. And I know what you're thinking, like, ew, an 18-year-old falls in love with a woman in her 70s. Oh my God, that's gross. Actually, you're wrong. It's beautiful. And you guys don't get it unless you watch it, because literally it's like one of the best movies of all time. I just can't describe it any better than that. She's so optimistic and she loves life so much, and she teaches him to love life. And it's just so good, you guys. Like, everybody needs to see Harold and Maude. I almost feel like it should be prescribed in schools. It's such an interesting take on life. Yeah.
I feel like I pulled it up, and it's the first sentence is like, this cult classic, and I'm like, anything that's this cult classic is Ella.
Yeah. Me, I'm really in cult classic corner over here. That's really my movie recommendations every time. It's like you with like The Penguins of Madagascar or something like that, and I'm like, have you ever seen this 1981 film from one director who only directed 2 things in his life?
Yeah. So I did May December. This one is a fictional movie about a real event that did happen.
If you guys haven't seen May December, side note, Natalie Portman's character is asthmatic in it, and it's the only movie I've ever seen where a character is nebulizing because of asthma, and I've never felt more seen in my life, because our asthmatic queens, including myself, do nebulize regularly when we get sick, and it's just really important to see sort of like a Natalie Portman nebulizing moment, and having in the nebulizer actually be the cause for one of the sex scenes in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't think that asthma's sexy, think again.
Yes. So May December, again, a fictional retelling of a thing that
True
actually
event.
happened, which is Mary Kay Letourneau, who had an affair with her student.
12 years old.
12 years old. Big yikes. We are not condoning anything underage here, but this movie then takes place of if 20 years later or 15 years later, somewhere around there. They want to film a movie about her.
But main fact is that they got married. The student and the teacher.
The teacher had a baby where she had the baby while she was in prison for her relationship with a 12-year-old. And his parents did not love that, as nobody's parents should love that. And so then they do get married, and they have more children, and they come up with this beautiful life that they, have together. And then, 15, 20 years later, they want to create a movie about her life. And so the actress that will be playing her, it's very meta. So if you like movies like that, comes and kind of shadows her and learns about the life. Learns about her life and wants to learn her mannerisms and gets an inside look as to like kind of what their life is like now, and all of the hate and all of the side eyes that they got throughout their entire relationship.
I loved this movie. I just really wish that more people cared about this movie. I really loved it.
It's so creepy, but it's like, it's campy, it's creepy, but it's not too crazy. I don't know, it's so good.
Honestly, everybody treat yourself to just going through Todd Haynes' entire filmography, because he writes really creepy campy stuff, or directs really creepy campy stuff, and it's amazing. Yeah. Anyway. All right, great choice. Yes. There's a lot of age stuff that I was looking up where I was like, wow, there's like a lot of movies made about age gaps.
Yeah. It's honestly, like, I looked up because I was like, oh, let me see if, like, May December was my first choice, but then I was like, let me just see if there's any other ones that I've seen, and then I was like, oh wow, there's like a lot.
Special shout out to Licorice Pizza, which I definitely have talked about on this show before, but really good older woman, younger man movie.
So yeah, if you like any of those,
hit me up.
Like Intermezzo.
If you like any of those, hit me up.
Well, looking ahead, we are reading Bunny by Mona Awad next.
Excellent. I'm so excited.
I am too. So here is the description off the back of the book. So Samantha Heather Mackey couldn't be more of an outsider in her small, highly selective MFA program at New England's Warren University. A scholarship student who prefers the company of her dark imagination to that of most people, she is utterly repelled by the rest of her fiction writing cohort, a clique of unbearably twee rich girls who call each other Bunny and seem to move and speak as one. But everything changes when Samantha receives an invitation to the Bunny's fabled smut salon and finds herself inexplicably drawn to their front door, ditching her only friend Ava in the process. As Samantha plunges deeper and deeper into Bunny's sinister yet saccharine world, beginning to take part in the ritualistic off-campus workshop where they conjure their monstrous creations, the edges of reality begin to blur. Soon, her relationship with Ava and the Bunnies will be brought into deadly collision.
I can't wait.
I'm so excited.
Because we tried to read one academic magic book before in the Atlas 6, and it sucked so hard, and I can't wait to make up for that.
Yeah, it's tough too, because I read, like Babel was good. That was a dark academia kind of magic book, and then The Maidens.
The Maidens. I really liked The Maidens. So if this is giving Maidens vibes, I'm there.
Yeah. No, I'm very excited because I've heard so many good things about this book. Everybody's recommended this book, so I think I have high hopes. I just read Mona Awad's Rouge with Rebecca, and we did not love that one.
Oh.
So, but she was like, this isn't anything like Bunny, and like Bunny was so much better. So, I have really high hopes.
Okay, excellent. I'm excited. Thank you to everybody for joining our Sally Rooney fan club.
Yeah. So next time it'll be a Mona Awad fan club. Maybe. We'll see.
Perfect. Bye.
But until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
Well, that's our show. I hope you enjoyed listening. If you liked it, please go give it 5 stars on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this right now. And if you want more book-related content, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at RW Reads Podcast. That's at RWREADSPODCAST on Instagram and TikTok. This podcast was produced by JB Media and edited by Jenna Weston. We will see you in the next episode. Happy reading!